We are now in record mode. Okay, I'm going through our checklist because we're running a little bit behind, and I'm actually awake and coherent this time. So, compared to last week, right? But what I did was I went through and, remember we were talking about entredot. So I made a little entredot stitch. But what else I did is, I'm going to go to the objects. Okay, here is me ungroup, because I always group everything. Okay, here's what I've done. This is, my first section, right? And I've got multiple things in it, so I'm going to ungroup it too. This is my placement line.
How do you move, everybody? How do you move that thing from the side?
Which thing from the side?
Oh, I messed up.
What thing from the side?
I got you back. How do I move where everybody's name is?
Is there a plus symbol next to it?
No, there's a negative sign.
I
got it. It left.
Okay. Okay, so, what I have here is I made my, remember we were going to do this on wash away, right?
Right.
So here's my placement line. Here's my tack down line. No, that's wrong. Hold on. Here's my tack down line. Hold on. Now I'll explain this. Okay, placement line, tack down line. I'm going to tack that down, the edge of the fabric, right? These two lines are if you want to add another edge of fabric to the side here. If not, you can just delete them, right? Here's my entredot. The entredot I went ahead and made with a motif. And that's where this file comes in. This is my entredot stitch. I'll make it purple so you know. How's that? Mm-hmm. That is my little entredot stitch. That's all it is right there. Okay? So I'm going to send you these so you can play around with the motif. And this we'll look at in a second. That's about the ribbon. All right, so here's my placement, here's my tack down. These two lines are on the other side. See where they're highlighting? In case you want to make this like insertion entredot. Have you seen the entredot? It has, the entredot strip and then there's the pieces of fabric on the side of it?
Yes.
Okay, so if you want to make insertion, you're going to have to put another piece of fabric here. So placement and tack down, and then there's the entredot. If not, just skip these or delete them. Okay, so then here are my satin lines. I'm going to delete that for a second. Hold on. Okay, this is a triple running stitch to build like a cord underneath. This is my satin stitch, I believe. Yes. Okay, I didn't try to make the entredot top, as part of the entredot stitch. I went ahead and just put a satin stitch all the way across it. Okay? But, and you can see on both sides. But what I did was I also put that support cord in there that's, remember I told you they usually run a cord to give it some strength?
Yes. With
the triple stitch. And when you get these files, you can look at these settings, okay? But now,
oh, excuse me.
Bless you. Now this section right here in between these two pieces would be where, I attached the fabric and did the entredot, right? Okay, here's all my entredot pieces. Then you have, let me ungroup that because I told you I'd group everything, right? Okay, here's my placement. Here's the tack down, placement, tack down. That's going to be on the other edge. Let me move these up. Hold on. Okay, here's my placement on the inside. Here's my tack down. These are on the outside, so those are going to be the option to add that little piece of fabric. Okay, and then these last two lines right here and right here, I didn't space them very well, but you can adjust them how you need. Those are going to be like trim lines, so you would space those out if you wanted to have fabric on the side of it. And those are your trim lines to trim off that fabric for insertion. All right? Does that all make sense?
Yes.
Okay, when I send you these files, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put this all together and I'm going to group it now. So that's grouped as one section. What happens if you just want to look at the Entre-deux section, see how it highlights all those little blue squares? So it's all grouped together. And each section will be grouped. Okay, the next section that I want to look at is this little piece right here. Hold on. My screen gets flaky sometimes. Okay, this little piece right here is a motif. This is a motif, and this is a motif. Okay, if you look at this file, you know, here's the motif, right? I'm going to move this up. I'll move these around. How's that? So, you know, there's the first one that we looked at. Okay, here's the motif. This one I didn't use. I used this one. And I'm going to change the color on this so you can see it a little bit better. And what I did was, here's my motif. Here's a running stitch in between it. The motif is flipped. Running stitch in between it so that it lines up, and I was able to take something like that and put it on top. Okay, so when you look at this, what I have is, you know, I actually have one line here, a line here, a line here, another line here, and one here. So there's 5 lines. If I go out of preview, or, you know, 3D view, you can see I'm going to have big jumps between the hearts. But, you know, that's not a big deal. Those are trimmable, right? So, but all I did was, you know, I made a scallop, and I'm going to zoom in on this one because it's a little bit more fun. And I thought, I'm going to do one of my favorite heirloom scallops, which is, it's got this crisscross, but this is going to be heavy because it's a triple. Okay? And then these are just going to be satin stitches. See the running lines in between?
Uh-huh.
But
now why couldn't you just keep that little running line between the heart? Once it did the blue heart, change the running line to white and just leave it as a running line. You'd have to change it.
I would end up with, I'd end up with multiple color changes. You know what I mean? Remember,
so you just leave and snip it.
Right, I just snip it. Now, if I really wanted to, I could, let me ungroup that one. I could do something else with that running line. I wanted some spaces because I wanted them fit in here, but I could take this little heart and I could space it in there. See?
No, I like it on the outside.
Me too. I thought it was just worth taking that, you know, that little running stitch in there. It wouldn't show too much. It's just a running line. Yeah. It's going to sink into the fabric, right?
Yes.
But, you know, if I wanted to, I could do that. You know, or I could put something else in there if I wanted to. But I thought that just looked nice and dainty.
Yes, that looks very cute.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty.
Now, when I made this motif, what was important, that's why I'm going to send you the motifs, okay? What was important was that I paid attention to where things started and where things ended, right, so that I had no jumps, okay? And I'm going to ungroup this. Let me get rid of that piece. Okay, here is this piece, and it starts here and it ends here. And I know that because I made it, but it was important that, you know, I did this so that I had no major, yeah, let me move this, hold on. You know, that I wouldn't have a bunch of major jumps, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I'm just not, like, let me.
You gotta flip that.
Well, no, I shouldn't have to. Oh, that's what it is. That piece right there. Couldn't figure out why that, you know, wasn't doing what I wanted it to do. So we'll change that to Beeman Green. How's that? I couldn't figure out why I was getting that funny jump. Okay, now I'm getting the jump that I want. Okay, see what's happening?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, you know, I know that you know, if I put these together, I'm not going to have a funny jump. There's actually, like, I probably ought to move this because this is, you know, see where that circle is down here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I should probably move my end point to up, or my start point to up here on that. But, you know, I'm going to leave these two so you can see. You can play with those. On the white ones, I was a little more careful. And, you know, or well, they're blue now, but, you know, I was a little more careful about where my in and out points were. Well, I guess not. Anyway, I'll let you guys move that end point up here. But, you know, it's not going to make too big of a difference because it's going to travel and jump here, and then that's going to cover it. But it should be this start point should be up here.
And what size needle did you use?
Just
a regular
embroidery needle. But when you go in, I want you to tear these apart and go in and look at the, you know, go in and look at the settings on these, okay? Like, you know, for example, on this, we'll just tear one of these apart. You know, I didn't leave this density really high.
Because they're so small.
They're small. It should be right about, you know, 80 to 85%. Okay? So maybe I did leave the density. Well, yeah, that's what happens when you undo too many times. But anyway, on these, you know, I know on the daisy and on this, the density has changed. So tear this apart. Anytime you click on these, see, they're grouped. Just go to edit and ungroup, and then you can tear them apart and see what's going on. I also, if you look at this, I didn't put anything in the middle of this daisy because there's just, you know, a bunch of little stitches, and I just felt that putting anything in the center of that might, you know, I could probably put like a little satin dot if I wanted to, but
could you put a French knot?
I probably could, but if you look at what size it actually is, it's pretty small.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I probably don't really need anything in the center of that.
No. You're so small.
Well, play with these and, you know, tear them apart. They look great on the screen. You know, I have to test stitch them a little bit yet. But, you know, this one, you know, this is just the scallops we were talking about, and then that little daisy.
I like all of them.
Well, I'm going to send these to you, and I'll send you the motifs. The only one I don't have the motif on that other page for, because you'll have to make the motifs in your program, is going to be the scallop. But you know how to make the scallop, right?
Sure. I know everything. No, I don't know how to make the scallop, but there's a scallop in there.
True. We were playing with that at the last one. So,
Right.
Okay. Now, what we didn't cover was ribbon insertion. And I've made this kind of large. But, you know, ribbon insertion can be done a couple of different ways. You know, this is with the little satin bar going across it to hold it in place. And you would have to tack down your ribbon. You know, and I made this wide. Okay, if you know what your ribbon sizes are, right? So if you know that your ribbon is, trying to think how they gauge that. I should have looked at ribbon here. Okay, so if you know, like, if you look on your ribbon, it's going to give you millimeter sizes, right? So let's go with 4 millimeters, right? There's a 4 millimeter grid. That's a pretty thin ribbon. But, you know, if you want to put a ribbon that small, you know, you can. If you look at like a 1/4 inch, remember I told you there's the one website you can go to convert inches to millimeters. So if you have a 1/4 inch ribbon or, you know, 1/8 inch ribbon, you know, usually they're giving millimeters also on the side of that. But what I did with this, let me go change my grid size. We'll go ahead and bump this up to 6. Okay, if I have a 6 millimeter ribbon, the first thing I'm going to want to do is, first off, I have to know where to put the ribbon, right? So I'm going to treat it like an applique somewhat. You know, I'm going to take my, you know, placement line, right? Okay, that's my placement line. Make it a color, that you know what it is. I'll take this color and turn it usually into like pink for placement, right? Okay, then all you have to do is copy and paste it and change the color, for tack down. Okay, that's going to, you're going to want to match the color of the ribbon, but that's going to stitch right down the center of the ribbon. Okay, if you want to be a little fancier, you can put the placement and you can space these out, placement and tack down, But usually, you're not making a real wide ribbon. To be honest, you could just take the placement and then put a little bit of like stitch witchery, the press and stick kind of stitch witchery, or the, washable rescue tape on the back of your ribbon and just stick it here. That would be the easiest way to do it. So that would be the way I did it. Just, you'd have to be careful that you were straight, right? If you want to make sure that you're straight, here's your placement, copy and paste, tack down. It's going to be a little bit inside, right? Maybe not that much inside.
But why are you stitching down your ribbon?
Because we're going to put stitching over top of it. There's a couple of different ways to do this. I'm showing you the way, like if you want to put the satin stitch one that I showed you on there, right? So I just copied and pasted those lines. So I'm going to flip them and, flip them again and just move them over. So I know my ribbon is about that wide. If I measured out my grid to match my ribbon, right?
Okay.
Okay, so there we go. So, okay, placement on one side, placement on the other side. And we'll leave those pink, tack down, we'll make those yellow. Okay, does that make sense? You're going to treat it like an applique.
All right.
And then, because I made, this, this little ribbon, the stitch, right, for heirloom, as a motif, I can just put that right over top of it. Now, if I know I'm going to use 6mm ribbon, then I need to change this motif. I'm just going to copy and paste it and resize this. So I would go into dimension, my objects, and then to dimension. And I would make this like 6.1mm. And then look at this percentage here. It says 58. Go over and select that, and then you're going to have to hit twice, the first number twice, and then 58%. So make sure it says 58, right? Or, if you want this to be, not perfectly squared, you can make this longer. Maybe you want this to be 7mm, right? There is the new motif. Okay? Then I just have to save it. And, I know where I started this. I started this here and ended it here. So I'm going to use my B to zoom and drag around it. Go up to embroidery, make motif, give it a name, like 6mm ribbon. Say OK, and then I'm going to tell it that I want it to start not on the edge here. I want it to start in the middle of this satin stitch, right in the middle. And, the next place is going to be down here. And the reason I did that is because this bar on the next motif has to cover this. So let's go back to this. Okay, there's our placement and tack down for our little ribbon, right? Now we're going to make another line, and we're going to come dead center. Hold your control key to keep your line straight. Hit enter, and then hit your select immediately. That selects it. And I'm going to change the color to blue so it's just different than the placement and tack down. Then I'm going to go up to my objects. I'm going to tell it I want it to be a motif. I'm going to select my gallery because I made, Bernie's motifs, right? And there's my 6mm ribbon. See how that's lining up? If I want to make sure, I might make that
stars.
7.1. Not sure why that's 707, but let's see what it, oh, that's right, because we made it 7 long. Okay, so now because I put it on that edge, I should have gone to the one side, but I put it on the edge. No big deal. I'm just going to nudge it over and center it on those lines. Okay, so let me zoom in. I would use the same color for every bit of this. All right? But, you need to have color stops. So these 2 lines are my placement lines. If I want to make sure this is all lined up, I can hold the control key and come down here and select, this as well. And you can see where everything's lining up. It's not going to be perfect, but we're also zoomed in 560%. These are my tack down lines. I would match those to the color of the ribbon so they don't show up. Okay? And here is, my ribbon insertion stitch. And I can take this and I could put scallops on the side of it. I could put, attach lace on the side of this, piece. I can do whatever I want to do. Or I can put entrecôte on the side and have a nice, lovely ribbon running through the middle of it. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah, yes. I wish I lived next door.
I'm going to have to come down and visit you, I'm telling you. All right, let me get back over here, and I'm going to paste this in. I'm going to group it first, okay? And so you guys have this too. And we'll just put it in the middle of our entrecôte here. But that is a ribbon. So you're basically going to have a nice satiny ribbon attached here between the 2 pieces of entrecôte. Or, you can put something like this between them. Right?
I just think those are elegant.
They're fun. I like playing with borders and, because you used to make them on the Elna machines all the time. And
well, you should. It's a pity you didn't have a daughter.
I'm telling you, I have all boys. I joked when I made this little dress one time for a sample that I wanted to dress Caleb, who at the time was 2, and he had blonde hair and big blue eyes and all these curls. And I said to my son, can I use Caleb to model this dress, right? And he looked at me, because he had all these beautiful ringlets. He was such a pretty boy, right? And he looked at me, he says, no. And I said, he'll never know. It's not like I'm going to scar him for life, right? And he said, right, until one of his uncles or his brother mentions it. And it's like, oh, okay, touche. I could see that one happening, right? So, yeah, I have all these pretty boys, but I have none of them that, I could put in girls' drag,
Isn't that something? Mm-hmm. Well, those are just so pretty.
So, but I'll send you these files. They're probably too big for your hoop, but I want you to come in here and make these. I'm going to send you these as well. Let me zoom out so you can see. So you're going to get all of these, and I want you to look at what I did and play with these and make motifs, okay?
Yes.
And, look at what kind of this, look at how I made the heart, go into reshape, see where the points are. Remember, you can always hit B and zoom in, right? See where all my points are?
Mm-hmm.
And, here's my in point. Here's my out point. So I know when I make the motif that I tell it to start here and go to here. Okay? Do you guys have any questions on those?
No, I want to play.
Well,
I'm good.
You're good? Shirley, you good? Mm-hmm. Okay, now, what else you have, let me go back over to this. Don't forget the things that are built into the program. Okay, I'll move this over so you guys know what that's for. I could, make just about anything in here, but I also can use what's already in the program. If, I want to use a motif line, I'm just going to, do that little swing out menu. I can pick the motif run, put it in the middle here. You can always move it, so if it's not perfect, don't worry. But if you want to go straight, hit Control. and that'll make a straight line. Okay, now it's picking whatever my last motif was, so just go to select. And I'm going to go ahead and go into my, object details, my property settings. And I've got like a bazillion motifs to select from, that, they're really quite nice. There's these little lacy things here, right? See? This has a little bit of satin stitching to it. Okay. See, what it looks like there. And you can space these out a little bit. Like maybe I might want to make this like 17 or, 17.25 maybe. And space that a little bit more. See?
Oh, my stars.
So there's lots of neat things in here. Now, one thing I will mention is some of these motifs that are built in have some issues because they didn't put the in and out points in the right spot. And one of the reasons is, they made this as unstitch intensive as possible in case you resized it. Okay? Mm-hmm. But, that's a very pretty, very pretty stitch right there, right?
Yes.
You also have the French knot line. So if you come over here, here's the French knots. And, you can come in here and just make a line and hit enter, and you have French knots. So you have all of those options available. Now, you also have a couple of other things in here. If you look at this, this is a backstitch line, and that is a stem stitch line. And the stem stitch line is quite interesting because, let me go into another window here. You know what, so I can keep everything on one page, I'll come over to the second window again. Okay, the stem stitch line, hold on, just trying to move these out of the way. You guys will get all these little files and be thinking, what in the world would she send us these things for, right?
She'd be dizzy that night.
No, I'm awake tonight. Last week I was like, total ditz. But this week I'm awake. Okay, ready? Now, the stem stitch line has some unique little properties, and you can use this to create some neat things. Okay, here's a back stitch line. Here's stem stitch. When you look at heirloom things, you're going to see that a lot of the satin stitching on those stems is angled. See? Mm-hmm. That is what the stem stitch does. But you can change the settings to make it look even prettier. And I zoomed in on this. I'm going to select it and go to my details. And here's my stem stitch line. Okay, line thickness. I'm going to make this drastic and make it 4. Line spacing. Let's go down to 1. Line angle. See the changes? Let's try 65 and see what that looks like. Stitch thickness. Let's try 90. See what that looks like. Okay, so we want to go backwards. Okay, so 25. See? See what that's looking like now? My spacing, if I want to make it a little closer together and get a little more satiny effect, let's try 0.7. See?
Oh, yes.
So, if you want to make a stem, you can make a quick stem, or if you just want to, make a little textural little thing, you can play with this. The default is, kind of like your basic stem stitch. See?
Now put a leaf on there. Mm-hmm. I want to play with that.
You know what I'm going to do? Here, I'll do this just for you, Nancy. How's this?
All right. Now how would I put a leaf on there?
You would use your satin stitch tool up here. Remember, depends on what kind of leaf you want to make. Real basic leaf, left click, right click, left click, left click. Okay.
Oh, you're too clever.
Now, I would change that fill, or, you know, you could do it a bunch of different ways. But anyways, that's one way to make a leaf. So, okay, so I'll leave this here, but those are the stem stitch lines. Now, the back stitch line also gives you some options. So let's go look at the back stitch line. Here's the back stitch line. The back stitch line, if we zoom in, see what it's doing? But if I go into the details or the settings, you know, I can make my stitch thickness, you know, 2.5. My overlap, let's make it 50. Stitch length, let's make it 3. And I get a whole different look, especially if I'm going around a curve. So it's going to give you almost a little bit of a rustic kind of thing. It's going to give you some texture. Okay? So that would be probably a better stem for this.
Yes.
But since you now have these, you know you can do things like this, right? Copy and paste it, and you can resize it.
Oh.
Although I changed the properties on that one and put a big center on it. And to do a center, Nancy, so that, you know, you can come over here and, you know, pick what kind of stitch you want, and we'll pick just a satin and just draw a circle. But change your settings because you can see, you know, that's too big for just a standard satin, right? Okay, so I wanted to make sure we covered the lines because, you know, if you're going to go through and make some really heirloomy things and, you know, besides just motifs, you could actually make designs. Like this would be, you know, really maybe a cute thing to put on, you know, instead of the daisy line, right? I always forget I grouped those. Hold on. Instead of the daisy line, I'm just going to copy and paste that and ungroup it. And we'll get rid of the daisy line here. And I'll change these to be a different color. We haven't used, let's go for orange. Okay, so, you know, you could come in here and you could say, you know what, I really want to make a stem stitch line, and you know I'm going to kind of go like this and right click and curve it, and I'm not going to go all the way down, but see what that looks like? And then you could put whatever you wanted, hearts, or you could put individual daisies here, or you could put leaves on it, or you could make this shorter. And, you know, the same thing for the back stitch line. You can do whatever you want with this. And put those little daisies here with some leaves, you know. Okay? Now, there's one other line that we have not talked about. Whoops. Guys get to see my messy screen here. One more line that we've not talked about, and that is this line, the sculpture line. The sculpture line does exactly, you know, I'm going to make a line and then I'll explain this. I guess is the best way to do it. This is your hand look quilt stitch. Let me zoom in. And I don't know if you can see what it's on. See that, you know, it's kind of going forward, backward, jump, forward, backward, forward, jump, okay? So if you really wanted to, you could put invisible thread on the top, you know, top thread, right? Make this, I'll make it long. Okay, see the thicker and then the jump, right? You'd have to adjust your density a little bit on your embroidery machine, and I would do a test run, and I would pull the bobbin thread to the top when you start. But this is the hand look quilt stitch, and it's, you can do this on your embroidery machine with the sculpture stitch.
And what is it called? The sculpture stitch?
Sculpture stitch, yep. So, you know, play with that, because that, you know, a 5mm stitch length is going to be a little bit long. I wouldn't, you know, probably do that, but you're going to have to adjust your tension on the top thread to get it to pull. But one of the things to remember on this is definitely pull your bobbin to the top and hold on to it when you start so you have that immediate tension. You'll get better stitches at the beginning. The first few stitches may not form exactly how you want, but give it to about 4 stitches. And if you're not seeing that bobbin thread coming up, because you're going to put colored bobbin thread in your bobbin, right? If you're not seeing that pull up, then you have to increase your tension. But so those are the lines in the program. So I'm going to go ahead and I will save this as lines. And I'm just going to leave it in Jan format. And let me get into my libraries and we'll find your folder. Beth would be, probably unhappy with me because my hard drive's getting messy again. And I cannot find that. There it goes. Okay, my documents. Here we are, digitizer. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to send this to you in Jan format. How many of you have version 3?
I don't know what I've
I
got.
do.
Okay, Shirley, do you have version 3? I know you have version 3, Nancy, because you got that last year. Right. Shirley, do you have version 3? I think we've lost Shirley's vocal again. Okay, if you have any problems opening these files, let me know and I will save them in version 1 for you. But I'm going to save them as Jan so you can go in and edit them. Okay, so there's motifs and lines, right? And I will send those. I'll put them on the website, actually, so you can download them. So I'm going to go ahead and close that. And we don't need that file either. And I'll send you this one too so you can play with these borders, okay? And then your homework for next week is going to be to make some of these borders.
I can do it.
I know you can, because we've gone through the wing needle designs, right? Which is another thing. You can put a wing needle design in here, right? Like if you made a motif for a wing needle, you can put that in here. Just remember to put a color change so that you know to stop and change when you get to, the more solid stitching. So, I expect a whole bunch of these phenomenal borders from you guys next week.
Yes.
And, okay, yeah, Shirley, you'll be fine then. You should be able to open these with no problem. Shirley has the Janome version. So you should be able to open these with no issues whatsoever. Okay, so now, when you get these, when you click on them, if they're like this, what are they?
Which one are you talking about?
If you look, if I click on this and I'm in my colors or I'm in this and I get a whole bunch of these selected together, what does that mean?
Grouped.
They're grouped. So you have to ungroup them to be able to edit these.
Yes.
And if you forget that and do something like this, say, oops, undo. Okay?
All right, but now if we change, if we ungroup them, will it go back by default to the original?
Nope.
No?
No, when you say to the original, what do you mean? See, it's just individual lines.
If we ungroup it,
Mm-hmm.
and we play with it, how do we go back to where it was?
Just say, when you open this and you ungroup it, if you want to make sure you have the original file, first off, you can always re-download it. But I would just save this under another name, like, Playtime or Playing with Borders or, Nancy's Borders.
And then
right, and then go ahead and edit. Just make sure you save it in Jan format.
Jan, yes.
Mm-hmm.
What is WC something?
I'm not sure.
WCN or WNC?
Are you talking about from the... you must be talking about from the Exquisite program. That's going to be, I think, the image file from the Exquisite program.
Thank you, dear. I could not figure out what in the
Yeah,
heck
don't
that
delete
was.
it because that's what gives you your preview.
Honey, I have everything that was entered about 7 times on this computer. I'm surprised this computer hadn't blown up. I put so much on it.
You know what
I
I've
tell you,
done? Get an external hard drive.
Ashley says, Mama, you're crazy. Don't you know anything about a computer? No, I'm waiting on you to come over here to show me.
See, tell her come over and clean up your hard drive. But what I did was I got an external hard drive, A, in case I ever crash again, right? And B,
Well, I guess
I just save everything to that external hard drive, and it keeps my computer from slowing down.
So, how much are they?
I think I have like a 1 gigabyte one, and it wasn't maybe $79 or something.
1 gigabyte?
I think, yeah, what is it, 1 terabyte, I guess now or something?
Terabyte.
Yeah, terabyte.
That's big.
Yeah, it's big. It's bigger than my one laptop hard drive. But, you know, I just store everything on it.
Well, will it keep you from duplicating?
If you make a folder system and put everything in folders and stay organized, it will.
Oh, well, you know.
No, I know. I go through every once in a while and think, oh, I really ought to clean up my hard drive. And
Well, what about that deduper?
I don't like that deduper. I mean, I know that, you know, some people love it because they have multiple embroidery designs, but if you made any changes to that embroidery design, like changed the colors, added lettering, and you saved it under the same name, then how do you know you're not getting rid of files you want to keep? I think you just have to be very careful with it. And, you know, there's a whole lot of little programs that...
I didn't like it.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of little programs that... when I first started embroidery, I think we all bought this program and this program and this program and this program and this program. And really, we had just about everything we needed in the expensive digitizing program that we purchased. So you guys know on this one, you have what's called Design Gallery. Design Gallery, you know, is a little separate program, and it's a catalog program. So, you know, it's going to go in and you can, you know, look at your artwork. You can look at every embroidery format that you have. You know, like if you have, you know, 800 formats of the same design, you don't need to keep all of those, right? It's going to take a second to open. But, you know, there's little, like, components to this program that, you know, like I know there's a big push sometimes for Embird on the Xers list. If you have Digitizer, you have a splitting program already. Okay, see, this is, you know, going to take a little bit of time because I'm on video. It doesn't usually do this, I'll put it that way. It's got to be the video source. But what it is it's a catalog. You can see the designs, right? And up here I can say all embroidery files, all artwork files, or I can pick my formats, okay? So, you know, if I want to see all the embroidery files that are in this folder, then, you know, I just click on the folder and it's going to show me everything that's in it. It also tells me what it is, whether it's Jeff or it's DST. You know, I've got some options up here, you know, like thumbnails or summary. I have it on a summary, or I can even go to lists like this, and it's going to tell me all my files by name. If I had, you know, it's going to sort them by file type. You know, if I click on design name, it's going to sort them by design name. I can sort them by size. So if you have, you know, like the Jeff version and the Singer version and the, you know, Huss version and the DST version of something, you don't really need all those. You know, you just need the formats you're going to use. You could clean those up, and it's real simple. You just left click, hold the shift key if you want to select a whole bunch of them in order, hold the control key if you want to select individual ones, right click, and you can either open it, you can print the worksheet, you can convert it to another format, or you can delete them. You can even create zips from here. So, you know, you've got a neat little program here, and it does give you options. You know, like if I want to look at just thumbnails, there's my thumbnails. You know, here's hide show folders, you know. And it will actually print, multiple sheets, of course, with these thumbnails on it if I just want to know what's in that catalog. I can also copy and paste these designs into, something else, like another folder, right? So this is a neat little program. If I extend this, which I probably will, I'll probably add a week or two, remind me, we'll go through the gallery and all the functions, okay? So, all right, so now we have covered attaching ribbon or trim, because you guys are going to do this. This is really simple. It really just goes right along with the,
Entree.
yeah, the entree and the motifs, okay? Now, lace insertion is going to really be the same as the entree on some level, like an applique. So we're going to look at that a little bit, and we want to look at hem stitching. And, we've done our edging, right? Here's edging. Now, we've done the edging with scallops, so I want to show you a couple of other options. You know what? Let me go back and open up that folder so it's all on one thing. Okay, so, we've done the scallops. I'll cover the scallops again, too. But, like a scallop, to me, the scallops are very simple. I'm going to use, my turning angle fill. And I'm going to use my grid, because I can always resize it. So I'm going to left click and either move up or down. In this case, I'm moving down. Left click. About down to here. If you want a small scallop, you can, make it small from, left click, or right click, sorry. Right click, because that's where it's going to curve, right? And then left click. Move it down, left click. There's my scallop. See how easy that was?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I can do if I am making a wide scallop, like if I'm making a big scallop, I don't really want it to look like that, right? I can go in here and I can give it, a fill, weave fill, right? And I can pick the different patterns. Let me see if I can pick a better color. See, it just gives it a little bit of a pattern, right? Or, Barbara and I were looking at this after everybody kind of bailed on us last week.
Leave me alone. I tell you, the closer it gets to 10 o'clock, I just want to go to bed.
I know, I'm just giving you a bad time. We were looking at the turning angle or contour fill, okay? And what we did was this. We created, our little scallop doing the same thing. Yeah, left click, right click, and then left click. And see what that does? You make this a little longer, a little wider maybe so you can see it. And let's change the color. See what that does on the scallop? Let me zoom in.
Now, how'd you get two different colors? Oh, because it is shaded.
No, it's just darker over here, and it's more open in the center. But look at, look at the scallop that, it's a little bit big here. I would probably make it a little more scallopy like that, right? And let's open this up so you can see the density. We'll make this spacing a little bit bigger. That's my stitch length. I would probably take the stitch length down to about 2.5 to 3, See?
Mm-hmm.
So, and here's the other scallop. You can see the little, decorative stitch to it. Adds a little more interest. You can still trim this one off. I would probably run on this one, to be honest, just to be safe. I would probably take the run stitch and run it along the edge, just inside. And these are big, so you would definitely need underlay. Okay? I'd make it the same color, but, that just holds those stitches a little better maybe, right? But this one, you would have to do, it still has the same thing. There's my ins, there's my outs. If I move them both over to here, then, I can do something like, my little border, because I would need to put an edge on this. This is just running stitches at this point. Okay.
Oh, it looks like a watermelon
It kind of does.
that's gone bad in the field. Or cantaloupe.
I would make that thin. And, you only need it to be maybe 1 to 1.5, right? And since Nancy wants to be a smart aleck, we'll make it the same color. How's that?
That's wonderful. I can't wait to play.
Well, so those are some options, and I'll leave these on here so you can look at the different stitch types. But that's, you can turn these into motifs as well, just what your in and out points. But, that gives a little different texture.
Now, can I tell y'all something?
Uh-huh.
My grandson is pitching Saturday for University of North Carolina on ESPN3.
Oh, neat. Okay.
And Friday night, he is going to be playing the piano. They're playing Duke. He's going to be the accompanist for the Star-Spangled Banner or America the Beautiful. I'm not sure which.
Uh-huh.
That's tomorrow at 3.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
So isn't that nice? And he's going to work for the Yankees this summer.
See, that'll be nice.
Wow.
We're so proud of him. Now, Bernie, you can go on. If y'all get ESPN
Okay, so, now you guys are going to play with the scallop edges and the borders and everything else, right?
Yes.
Okay, so let me save this. I'm going to go ahead and save. And that's going to do the borders and scallop edges, and then you're going to play with making me some really fantastic little borders, and you're going to get inventive with these stitches and some little flowers or whatever else you come up with, right? Right?
Yes.
Okay, you guys sound
Right.
positive.